Autism cases are rising among children. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. called the findings, quote, catastrophic. National correspondent Katia Tubman is live for us in New York with the latest. And Katia, this has been a priority for Kennedy even before he was a member of the cabinet. What did he say about this latest report?
That's right, Andrew. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says President Trump has tasked him with identifying the root cause of autism. But medical experts say they disagree with him on the reason we've seen cases rise. Autism rates rising again among children in the U.S., according to a new CDC report. Now, an estimated 1 in 31 children have autism, according to 2022 data, up from 1 in 36 in 2020 and 1 in 150 in 2000. Health officials widely say rising rates are due to better recognition of the disorder. Dr. Jessica McCarthy is a clinical neuropsychologist.
We're seeing the rates of autism go up because we're doing a better job of understanding what autism is. We're doing a better job of assessing it and diagnosing it in greater areas around the country.
Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said Wednesday environmental factors caused the disorder and has in the past suggested childhood vaccines are connected to rising rates.
We know it's an environmental exposure. We have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it.
A 1998 study that was later retracted initially linked the MMR vaccine to autism.
Vaccines do not cause autism. That's something that there is absolute consensus on in the scientific and in the medical community.
Scientists continue to look into what does cause autism, with studies pointing to a combination of genetic and environmental factors.
If we had a clear census of how any of these neurodevelopmental disorders developed, then we would have already done something about it.
Secretary Kennedy says he is seeking more answers and has assembled a team to identify and research the cause in the rise of cases of autism. He says they'll have some answers by September. Andrew?
We're going to take you, we're going to take you back to a press conference that the Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is having here in Washington, D.C. It is about the rising rates of autism among American children from a new CDC report that was released. He's talking about that now. Let's listen back in.
The epidemic is real. Between 1959 and 1965, researchers from 14 hospitals associated with major universities undertook the National Collaborative Perinatal Project, tracking 30,000 children from birth to age 8. This was no half-baked survey-based analysis. The study conducted 9 separate screenings covering neurology, psychology, speech, language, hearing, and visual function. Every developmental quirk, anomaly, and disorder was logged with painstaking detail. Autism, a condition characterized by profound impairments in social communication and behavior, would have stood out like a neon sign. There were 14 cases. That's 4.7 per 10,000. So we know what the historic numbers are. And we know what the numbers are today, and it's time for everybody to stop attributing this to this ideology of epidemic denial. In 2009, the California State Legislature charged the Mind Institute at UC Davis because this myth was already becoming pervasive, the myth of epidemic denial was already becoming pervasive in the mainstream media. The California legislature directed the Mind Institute at UC Davis to answer the question. And Irva Hertz-Pichotto is a highly esteemed, revered scientist, neurology, and epidemiologist, came back with a definitive answer: the epidemic is real. Only a very, very small portion of it can be changed to can be charged to better recognition or better diagnostic criteria. I want to say a couple of other things. There are many, many other studies that affirm this, and instead of listening to this canard, of epidemic denial, all you have to do is start reading a little science, because the answer is very clear. And this is catastrophic for our country. There's a recent study by Blaxell et al. And a team of other researchers that said that the cost of treating autism in this country by 2035, so within 10 years, will be $1 trillion a year. This is added to already astronomical healthcare costs. And then there's an individual injury. These are kids that, this is a preventable disease. We know it's an environmental exposure. It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics. They can provide a vulnerability. You need an environmental toxin. And Irva Hertz-Pichoda pointed out that because of this mythology, that the amount of money and resources put into studying genetic causes, which is a dead end, has been historically 10 to 20 times the amount spent by NIH and other agencies to study environmental factors, to study exposures, to study external factors, and that's where we're going to find the answer. This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it. And I think I'm going to have Walter Zaharodny, who is the most senior researcher for this project for ADDM, and who's been doing this for many years, to come up and...
You've been listening to a press conference in Washington, D.C. with the Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. there. He has been talking about a new CDC report that is tracking a rise in autism cases in U.S. children.